Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The real reason the Golden Bachelor's Bear Myrden quit show, and it's bad news for Sunny. After 8 nerve-wracking episodes, Bear Myrden eventually found his match on the Golden Bachelor with Sunny Long in Sunday's finale. But in what could be bad news for his winner, CEO Sunny Long, 58, the 61-year-old engineer almost didn't meet her at all. Bear quit the Channel 9 show shortly after being cast as the new Golden Bachelor because he had found love. And in a surprising twist, it was the Canadian-born Sydney Insider who auditioned for the role in the first place. He applied, they liked him instantly, then he pulled out because he'd met someone, an insider told Confidential. The source added that after Bear made his exit before the cameras had a chance to roll, the show's creators were stuck for a star. But once they saw the rest of the candidates, let's just say Bear suddenly looked like a rock star and they lured him back. The production insider explained. According to the source, the other possible bachelors were spectacularly underwhelming. Bear is said to be loving all the attention the show has brought him. This week, it was revealed by Women's Day that Bear was engaged to a millionaire heiress named Jo Kinghorn after his wife Audrey died in 2014. Despite claiming on the show he had remained single since becoming a widower. An insider who attended the couple's engagement party in 2016 revealed leaked information about their ill-fated romance and said Bear was commonly described as a tosser by Kinghorn's friends. Bear spent most of the engagement party showing off in the ski boat Jo bought him, the source told Daily Mail, adding he was also quite flirtatious with some of the women in attendance at the soiree. They added that Bear barely paid attention to male members of the friendship group, who did not find the infrastructure engineer interesting. What's more, according to the insider, Bear didn't cough up for Kinghorn's engagement ring. It should be known that the engagement ring was purchased by the bride-to-be, the source claimed. Kinghorn fell madly in love with the keen sailor after meeting the Canadian widower in 2012. A friend of Kinghorn told the publication that Bear's claims about his love life on the show have left her and her friends gobsmacked. For not only had the pair been engaged and lived together, but Kinghorn even stepped into the stepmom role with Bear's 3 young boys, Charlie, Jack, and Declan. However, as soon as money started playing a major role in their relationship, things seemed to go downhill for the couple. Kinghorn is a millionaire heiress. Her father founded Alco Financial Services and Rams Home Loans and has been featured on the Aussie Rich list. Bear seemingly lived the good life with Kinghorn, who hired a full-time nanny for his children so that she and the engineer could travel the world together. The publication revealed that when the pair got engaged in 2016, Bear and his 3 kids moved into Kinghorn's $6 million home in Manly. Daily Mail has reached out to Nine for comment. For weeks, viewers of The Golden Bachelor watched Bear Myrden navigate romance with the warmth of a storyteller, the kindness of a grandfather, and the steady charm of a man who had learned to love again after loss. His chemistry with Sunny Long, the woman who made him laugh like he hadn't in years, became the heartbeat of the season. Fans were convinced these two were heading toward the fairy tale ending the franchise had been desperately waiting to deliver. But then came the shock. A sudden exit. No farewell speech. No staged final walk to the waiting limousine. Just one message from the host. Bear was gone. At first, Bachelor Nation filled in the blanks with their usual theories. Health issues, a family emergency, cold feet, maybe even a secret relationship back home. But none of those came close to the truth. What really happened behind the scenes was far more emotional, far more complicated, and far more devastating for Sunny Long. It started with a letter. Bear received it on a quiet morning in the Bachelor Mansion, delivered by a producer who looked more nervous than he wanted to appear. The envelope was handwritten, the edges slightly bent, as if it had been carried through several hands before reaching him. Bear recognized the handwriting instantly. It was from Grace, his late wife's best friend. 4 years after his wife's death, Grace had been the bridge between his old life and his attempts to build a new one. She checked on him, she reminded him to take his medication, she listened when grief clawed its way back into his chest. She loved Bear like family, but she also held the stories his wife left behind, the ones he believed he already knew. But the letter wasn't gentle. The message was not simple. And the truth inside it wasn't meant to be read on national television. Inside was a revelation Barry never expected. His wife had hidden something from him before she passed, something that changed the way he viewed love, commitment, and the idea of beginning again. She had recorded a video, one Grace found only recently, a message addressed directly to Barry. It wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't a confession of wrongdoing. It was a plea, soft, trembling, and full of love. Barry, if someday you find someone new, please don't choose her just to fill the silence. Choose her because you can finally let go of me. And then came the sentence that broke him. If you feel like you're forcing your heart, then you aren't ready. Barry read the letter twice, then another 6 times, and with every reread, something inside him began to unravel. Not because he didn't love Sunny, he did, in his own new, growing way. But the video reminded him of the wound he had carefully covered but never healed. He realized he wasn't letting go. Not fully. Not honestly. The show wanted a love story. Barry wanted the truth. Producers sensed something was wrong when Barry didn't show up for a morning interview. They found him sitting alone in the garden, face buried in his hands, the letter lying open beside him. When they asked what was wrong, he finally spoke a sentence that shocked them more than any twist they had written into the season. I can't propose to Sunny. I can't even promise her the version of love she deserves. The team tried everything: emotional support, time off, the offer to continue the journey without pressure. But Barry's decision was unwavering. He believed staying would be dishonest, leading Sunny on would be cruel, and accepting a ring would be a betrayal to both women, the one he lost and the one waiting inside the mansion with hope in her eyes. The heartbreak no one saw on camera. When Barry requested to leave, producers asked him to film a goodbye message for Sunny. He refused. I can't break her heart in front of the whole world, he said softly. Let her hate me quietly. It's better than her hating publicly. But Sunny didn't hate him. She cried, not because she felt abandoned, but because she finally understood the weight Barry had been carrying from day one. He had spoken of his late wife with tenderness, but he had never spoken of the unfinished chapters, the memories that still kept him awake. Sunny later told a producer, Barry wasn't giving me half love. He was giving me all the love he could. It just wasn't enough yet. Why, it's bad news. Myrden had always been known for his calm, grounded charm, the kind of man who could steady a storm simply by walking into a room. But in the weeks leading up to his shocking departure from the Golden Bachelor, the storm was inside him. Viewers thought they understood the man they watched every Thursday night, the quiet widower with the warm laugh, the affectionate father, the gentle romantic who made Sunny long blush like a schoolgirl. But in truth, Barry was carrying a secret, one heavy enough to make him abandon the biggest second chance of his life. And that secret didn't just take him away from the show. It threatened everything he had begun to build with Sunny. A love story that was never meant to be easy. When Sunny walked onto the mansion patio for the first time, sunlight on her blonde hair, nerves trembling in her smile, Barry felt a thud in his chest he hadn't felt in years. She reminded him of early summer mornings, of laughter echoing through old hallways, of the kind of love he once thought he'd buried with his past. She made him feel alive again. But feeling alive came with a price. What no one knew then was that Barry had come on the show with a promise to himself. I will not fall too deeply. Not again. His daughters had whispered the same fear before he joined the show. Dad, please don't get hurt again, or hurt someone else. But by week 3, he was already breaking that promise. By week 5, he wasn't sleeping. And by week 7, the producers noticed something was off. His hands shaking slightly at rose ceremonies, his confessional moments shorter, his gaze drifting when Sunny wasn't looking. Something was eating at him. Something he couldn't ignore anymore. The phone call that changed everything. The moment producers still whisper about happened on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. No cameras, no microphones, just a routine break between filming. Barry stepped outside to take a phone call from home. When he returned, his face was pale. Not dramatic TV pale. Real life pale. Something had happened to his family. But it wasn't an emergency that required sirens or hospitals. It was something slower, deeper, heavier. His eldest daughter had uncovered something they thought had been resolved years ago, a legal dispute Barry thought was closed forever. But it wasn't. It was reopening, and this time it could force Barry back into a fight he wasn't ready for. It could even threaten the estate he had promised would one day be his children's. And the worst part, someone from his past, someone who once meant everything to him, was involved. "Dad, she wants to talk to you," his daughter said over the phone. Barry felt the ground shift beneath him. His late wife's sister, a woman who had never forgiven him for moving on after her sister passed, a woman who, for reasons he still didn't understand, had chosen the exact moment he found happiness again to step back into his life with demands, paperwork, and emotional fire. Barry's guilt returns like a ghost. When the producers asked him if he was okay, Barry nodded. When Sonny asked him why he seemed distant at dinner that night, Barry smiled and said he was tired. But guilt was chewing through him. He felt pulled in two worlds, the world he was trying to build with Sonny, and the world he had left behind but couldn't outrun. The emotional battlefield grew each day. During his overnight date with Sonny, he could barely hold eye contact. She kept touching his hand, sensing something slipping through his fingers. "Bear, you're not here with me," she whispered. He wanted to tell her everything. But how do you tell a woman you're falling for that your past might destroy your future? He couldn't. And that's when he knew his time on the show had to end. The night everything collapsed. The crew remembers the scene vividly. After filming wrapped for the night, Barry walked into the producer's office, alone, shoulders tense, eyes shining with the kind of pain you can't fake for TV. "I can't do this," he said. "Not to Sonny. Not to myself." They tried to convince him to stay. They reminded him that the audience loved him. They told him that conflict could be handled. But Barry wasn't worried about audience reactions. He was worried about breaking Sonny's heart. And he was terrified of giving his late wife's family another reason to accuse him of moving on too quickly, of forgetting, of choosing love over responsibility. This wasn't a reality show dilemma. This was a real-life collapse. The producers had no choice. Barry packed his suitcase quietly the next morning. And then came the moment that fans still debate. He didn't tell Sonny in person. He left a letter, a soft, trembling handwritten note placed beneath the ceramic seashell she had gifted him during their first group date, the one she said represented new beginnings. The irony nearly crushed him. Sonny's heartbreak, and the bad news she never expected. When Sonny found the letter, she didn't cry at first. She stood frozen, holding the note between her fingers, reading Barry's words again and again. "You deserve a love that isn't pulled in two directions. I need to go home before I hurt you more than I already have. If the timing were kinder, I would have stayed." Only later did she learn the fuller truth. Through whispers from producers, through cameras that captured her reaction, through the silence that grew like a bruise around her heart. Barry wasn't coming back. Not for an after the final rose. Not for a reunion. Not to try again. The situation at home was worse than anyone realized. And the bad news for Sonny? Barry had quietly told producers he didn't want her waiting for him. He didn't think he could promise her anything. Not now. Maybe not ever. A love cut short. Or paused forever. Fans still debate whether Barry and Sonny could find their way back to each other one day. Fate has separated lovers before, only to stitch them back together when the world was ready. But for now, Barry Bear Myrden stands at the edge of a life he tried to rebuild, fighting battles viewers will never fully see. And Sonny Long? She's left with memories of soft laughter, warm hands, and a man who loved her enough to walk away. In reality TV, drama is expected. But this time, the heartbreak was real.